Welcome to another episode of the Pennock Knockdown, a podcast where we unpack key strategies and tactics for digital marketing leaders. Today, I am joined by Amy Welsman. She is the founder and CEO of Paume. Paume is a skincare brand for your hands. They are redefining how we care and clean our hands through thoughtfully designed and specifically formulated hand care products. Amy, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. I'm really excited.
Great. We will start off asking Amy, what led you to create Paume? Tell us a little bit about what you were doing prior to this and what came to the launch of this brand.
So, this is, I guess, my first venture as a founder, but my second venture in like the entrepreneurial space. I was the first employee at a brand called NYX, a women's intimates brand based in Canada. I was the first employee there and was really the right hand to the founder, Joanna, for just over 4 years. So I was there from the very beginning. Actually, pre-launch, I survived two crowdfunding campaigns. I helped to build out their wholesale partnerships. That was mainly my focus. But in the beginning, I was really doing anything and everything on a given day. So I got exposed to all the different areas of the business, from operations to product development to marketing to digital marketing, wholesale, et cetera. So I got a real education very early on as a young person in my mid-20s. And then after 4 years, I really started to think about myself and what I wanted to do with my future. And I think that experience led me to want to start a brand of my own and really own it. So that was the hope leaving next, that I could, get some more life experience. I did a bit of consulting here and there for a couple years, and I had my first child in 2019. And it was actually through that experience of becoming a new mother that inspired the idea for Paume. And it was really that early throes of motherhood, parenthood, really, where you have a newborn and you become way more germ conscious, and you're looking for clean products that, make you feel good. And I couldn't really find anything in the sanitizer category specifically. And I was using sanitizer a lot throughout my day because I had a very colicky baby who cried a lot. So I wasn't like able to put her down and go wash my hands. Those simple acts of like just washing my hands became a difficult act. And I was looking for easy ways to clean my hands throughout the day. So I turned to sanitizer, immediately recognized an opportunity in the category to create something that was more aesthetically appealing, better formulated, better for our skin, that smelled better. It was just more of like a luxurious, like beauty product in the category. Remember, this is pre-pandemic. This was 2019. So there was really nothing going on in that category at the time. And I recognized an opportunity. So got to work on basically starting a business plan, getting the product made, getting a contract manufacturer, all that good stuff. And then the pandemic hit during that process. So it was very quickly a learning experience, and a lot of challenges came our way, but we managed to get through it. And we launched in early 2021 with our first product, which was the hand sanitizer. And then I immediately started to look beyond, our first product launch and think, okay, what are we going to build here? I want to build a legacy brand. What are we doing beyond hand hygiene, or what can we do more in hand hygiene as well? And how are we going to build a legacy? So then I got to work really on trying to redefine the hand care category. The hand care category is really interesting. It's very scattered. It lacks leadership. It's typically just a lot of body care brands happen to have a hand care SKU. So they'll have a hand cream, or they'll have some sort of hand care product, but nothing is done really intentionally, and nothing is done with like a strong point of view on hands. So really, we saw an opportunity to create like a true hand care brand that would define the category and create products that were really specially formulated for the unique hands on the skin, or skin on the hands rather. And that became our mission. So now, fast forward 4 years, we're now in our fifth year, and I think we have, I don't even know, I haven't counted in the last little bit, maybe 12 SKUs, which would include a variety of products from hand hygiene, like our hand sanitizer, which we're really known for, hand wipes, to then also skincare products that we formulated for hands. We have a serum that went viral on TikTok last year, and it's like one of our hero products, a great hand cream. We have an overnight mask, and we also have some beautiful accessories to help, guide your hand care ritual, so to speak.
Love it. Well, I like that, your tagline or what I said at kickoffing Palm is skincare for your hands, like fits so perfectly into the definition of what you guys are up to. How did like really going live during the middle of the pandemic, it sounds like, impact you? I mean, I suppose on one end you're a topic that people are looking for, right? But the other hand, like the pandemic was a challenge for most brands. How did it go for you?
Yeah, it was both a blessing and a curse. I always say this. It's like people always say, like, wow, what foresight you had. Like, you really caught, you perfect timing. And it's like, not really. Unfortunately, if I had come up with it maybe like 3 years prior, probably would have been perfect timing to launch a product in the middle of that madness. Yes, there was a spotlight on the category. Yes, we were able to capitalize on people's interest in that product and retailers' interest and, beauty editors' interest. And the fact that we had created something really unique, our formula was really different and set apart against our competitors. That being said, I would say there was just a massive category change that happened very quickly and overnight, essentially. So, when I thought of the initial idea, there was really only drugstore brands that were making very utilitarian products, and there wasn't really anything out there trying to do a luxury or elevated version. Um, so that quickly changed. A lot of brands and very established beauty brands and skincare brands were started suddenly making sanitizer. So we had a whole slew of new competitors immediately out of the gate, which was challenging. And then also the natural supply chain disasters that were unfolding, that certainly made things challenging. Luckily for us, we are formulated in Canada and, we were able to kind of brave the storms. But yeah, it was definitely a very interesting time. I think, but one of our, advantages is we were able to, we really did take our time on formulation and concept and packaging and all those things that are so important to creating longevity. And we were able to launch and still remain really unique in the marketplace. Um, and we also tried very early on to position ourselves uniquely as a product for new moms. I really was grounded in that initial idea of like, okay, who's my customer? A big learning from Nick's too is like when you're just launching, you can't be everything to everyone. You can't, for us to go up against some of like the huge brands of that category would have been futile and really costly. So immediately it was like, okay, who is like our real core customer? And I really looked inward at myself, who was inspired to create the product, given the experience I was having. And that really helped us, like, maintain our relevance, even as the pandemic, started to wane and the category, slowed essentially. We continue to grow and we continue to acquire new customers and basically create like a new conversation around hand hygiene and what products we use on a daily basis. So whereas a lot of other brands were maybe closing or maybe not making sanitizer anymore, we leaned into that and like focused even more on that core. Also while developing our skincare products as well. But sanitizer has still remained like a big focus for us.
Um, that's awesome to hear. I guess my question would be around, I love that you went into new moms early and, having had 3 kids myself, I remember how the switch of how frequently I was washing my hands was like night and day, and suddenly hand hygiene was everything. How did you get the awareness going in those early days of the business with the new mom audience?
Yeah, it's a good question because again, like we did raise a little bit of capital out of the gate, but by the time we got to market, we had very, very little to spend on marketing. A lot of that capital was tied up in purchasing our inventory and our tooling and all the things associated with that. So, we had to be very bootstrapped and thoughtful about where we allocated budget. I would say and whether this is, like, the right thing ultimately or not, we had some we threw a lot of things at the wall, and we spent money on things we probably shouldn't have, and then others that really worked. But I would say it was a combination of some good PR effort. I think a big lesson from Nick's was, it is important. You need those accolades if you want especially in beauty, you need those beauty editors, talking about your product. You need those features. So we did invest in PR quite heavily actually in the early days. Um, we immediately started working on meta ads and Facebook ads, which at the time, again, talk about like challenges of that period. The iOS changes were literally happening as we kind of were getting off the ground. And so that posed its own challenge. Really realized very early on that it was an expensive way to advertise. And without any brand awareness, it was challenging, though, it took us a good year and a half to kind of figure out our messaging and really focus on what worked and be more efficient in our spend. But I can talk about that also. But and also for us, omni-channel was really from day one, I knew that as much as we were going to be a predominantly e-commerce focused brand, we also needed retailers. We needed, other ways to sell our product. So out of the gate, we got some really good retail partnerships, the detox market being one of them, a clean beauty cult kind of retailer, getting those cool retailers on board. And building those partnerships, getting independents on board. We went to trade shows, like all the stuff we did at Nix were before, back in like 2013, like before Facebook ads were a thing. We were boots on the ground, like going to consumer shows, like just getting the brand out there as much as possible. And it felt a little old school, but honestly, it's so important, I think, as a layer to whatever you're doing digitally. So that was helpful. I would say like wholesale really sustained us for the first little while we figured out direct to consumer.
Yeah. Well, and I think the time you spent in figuring out the brand identity and the packaging, like being that it is so elevated and wonderful looking, I assume that yeah, while the paid and some of these other efforts took time to scale and to like learn the pieces that will work, your brand was so great looking that when they came to you, like, people were understanding they were in a good place. So kudos to you for like putting together such a fabulous looking brand.
You. Yeah, that took months, like that is such an and we did it, I did it, a lot. We did it internally. Like when I say internally, I mean like I had no team at that point. It was me working with some consultants, like figuring out the brand identity. And, we had a choice at one point. We'd raised some capital and it's like, do we hire an agency to do this whole brand book, brand story and spend like, tens and thousands of dollars? Or do we go a little bit scrappier and try to do it ourselves? And like, thankfully, I have a little bit of a design background. Not really, I shouldn't say that, but I love design. I love aesthetics. I had a pretty strong idea of like what I wanted to create. So I really just needed like a packaging designer and a creative brain who could kind of bring it to life. So I ended up working with a consultant and the two of us did it together really, and it worked out really well. And we saved a lot of money in the process too.
That's awesome. How do you go about I understand hand care's been a thing for a while. It's not like you guys, invented it for the first time, but like it's often overlooked. Like I think my mom was always saying growing up, whatever is left over after you put it on your face, just like rub it on your hands. And like that's sort of how I grew up. And we work predominantly in skincare. Most of our brands don't do hand anything. Like, yes, maybe they did during the pandemic, put together a sanitizer just because. How do you move people into this world of thinking differently and like paying attention to their hand care?
Yeah, there is definitely some education involved. I mean, it's funny you say your story about your mom. I hear that all the time. Like, there are those people out there that like had that mother that was like, "Be careful of your hands because you're going to spend all this, money and time on this, and then one day you're going to wake up and you're going to look, your hands are going to look older." And the reality is, like, our hands do age faster than our faces just by nature of like the exposure that they have to a million things, whether it's UV or chemicals or constant hand washing or hot and cold temperatures, all the things they're exposed to. And we don't take care of them. And I think recently, I mean, there's been a lot of, I would say there's been chatter in like social media and like around, comparing our hands to our faces, especially given the technology advancements we're making in our skincare routines and what we can do to enhance the look of our faces and how hands are really, it's driving a larger contrast between our hands and our faces. So there's been a bit of that we've been riding on, but it is a lot about education. I also think beyond the signs of aging that appear faster and the aesthetic point of view as well is we talk to so many people who actually suffer from chronic hand issues, whether it's eczema or psoriasis or various things that can afflict people. And there's a lot of people out there who are looking for like the perfect hand cream. We do a lot of consumer shows where people come up and they're like, "Okay, this is what I'm looking for. Here was my criteria," and to try to like make something that they're my hardest customers. I love talking to those people and pleasing them because they're so picky and people want it's like striking the balance between like something that's not that's lightweight and not greasy because you're going to be on your phone and on your computer and you're working, but you want it to be super hydrating, and you want, anyway. So we really have been very thoughtful about our formulations as it relates to just, how we use our hands every day. So there's the education piece there, certainly, that's like, your hands deserve a skincare routine. I think generally consumers are just a lot more aware of their bodies and their faces, and they're using products on their bodies that are way more sophisticated. They're using products with retinol for their bodies. Like, there's definitely a consumer knowledge that what didn't exist 10 years ago. So that's helped us as well. But I think for us, like, our superpower is that we are so niche and that we are really focused on one body part. Now a little bit too, because we're working in feet a little bit as well, but hands are still really our focus. It's been I think the way we've stood out in the market is like saying, we are the authority on hands. Come to us. We have a cream for overnight. We have a cream for a day. We have a serum. We have all these things to suit all your needs. And that's really how I think we've gained that loyalty in our community.
That's awesome. And do you think that like some of the retention metrics for you versus like beauty industry look different? Because I can imagine, I don't know, I would assume they're better for you than a traditional.
Oh, yeah, yes and no, depending on the product. I think it is still, I think no matter what, we're all prioritizing our faces. So when you find a serum that you like, for example, the Caudalie serum, the most viral serum, the number one serum at Sephora, that serum is something people go through one a month, and it's like they are dedicated, die hard. I think the retention rates for a product like that are really high. Hand care, we're still in that education phase. I think people are still, I think they like to think that they could have a hand care routine that's really consistent, that requires like monthly replenishment of certain products. I think we're getting there with education. And I think we do have some diehard customers that are like ordering our serum every month, like, or they're on replen, and that's great to see. But I also think like the focus on our faces is still, if we're going to put dollars toward anything, people are going to put dollars toward the face. So we're really trying to educate people to like this daily routine that then it would increase that replenishment rate. But it's very solid. But I think it's hard to compare against, say hair care, where like you have to wash your hair every day. And some would argue you have to put on face moisturizer. Whereas hand care, I think for a lot of people is still like, do I have to? Like, maybe I only do it when my hands are feeling really dry, but they're not doing necessarily the preemptive work or like the daily routine work. So it's happening. It's definitely happening, but it takes time. We're building, I kind of say this, like, we're kind of building a new category. Yes, it's been around forever, but no one's defined it in this way before.
Yeah, love it. Okay, that's interesting to understand. Tell you trade shows came up a couple times, and I think you mentioned they worked really well at the beginning, but maybe you're still kind of attending them and having booths at them. Like, tell me the forward looking strategy you're thinking of for your trade show presence.
Yeah, so we've always done like trade shows where like buyers attend. We have a couple, like we do one in New York called Shop Object. We do that twice a year typically. Um we've been pretty thoughtful about our strategy. Like, we haven't had the budgets to go to a million. A lot of like the really big shows like the Cosmoproфs and what have you are just a little out of reach for us right now. I think the shop's been great. We also love to look. The way I build out a trade show strategy is to really look at niche again, like learnings from Nick's. It's like we used to do trade shows for runners because we knew like leak-proof underwear would really appeal to that particular customer. We used to do equestrian trade shows. Like, you really have to pick. I say like for smaller brands starting out, like to look at a Cosmoprof, like don't spend your money there because you're going to be one of a bajillion. Whereas if you can find a category where there's a customer that needs your product, but maybe their other brands like aren't really there and don't have a presence, and you can be the first to really define or offer a product in their particular interest group, that's the key. So, for us with Ednix, it was equestrian, like randomly, which was like hugely successful for us. Whereas with Paume, we're looking to like, okay, let's go after at shop. It's like, let's go after like all the gifting stores. There are obviously lots of brands that sell hand care products to gift shops. But again, with our branding and our packaging and our unique positioning, we're really are the only hand care. We are the only hand care brand that's like at that show. So we're able to stand out amongst all the other brands. Or we're doing a spa focus. We're really focused on hotels and spas this year. So we're going after these shows that are regional shows that cater to all the spa buyers in that region and hotels. Again, they're missing hand care. There's a white space there. It's mostly, spa skincare lines and candles and accessories, and we're filling a white space there. So I think that's like my biggest advice, I guess, is just like really think about a niche and where you can be unique in that niche. And that's how you build from there. And then you can get into all those spas. And then you can think about, okay, we have enough for presents. Let's now go to the really big spa trade show and, get that going. So it's kind of like a slow build, but that's been our strategy since day one.
Love it. That's really insightful and helpful to understand. I do think like going after the niche and the equestrian example you gave with Nyx is huge. Like was the founder, was Joanna interested in that space, or just like you guys stumbled upon it?
Yeah, I used to be I was a horseback rider
Okay.
in my
So you brought it.
early in my I was really into it. And I just said like this is how but again, like when you're starting out in any category, like it's so hard to be like, okay, I'm going to be the next X for the masses. It's like, yes, ultimately you'll get there, but how do you immediately, where is the lowest hanging fruit? Like who's the customer that's going to look at your product and be like, oh, I need that for to five reasons. And it's amazing if you think through that lens, that's how you build slowly. And that's how you can do it affordably because you just need to get a foothold. And then if you can get a foothold in one of those niches, then you can get a foothold in another one and then another one and grow from there. And then you can become I find like the loyalty and the word of mouth marketing that happens within those niches. Similarly for us for moms. Like again, we learned very quickly that we could not afford to go up against, the Purells of the world. We just couldn't. So we knew if we go for new moms, nobody is making hand hygiene products for new parents. And they are the biggest consumers of hand hygiene products. They're changing diapers all day long. They're getting sick all day, every day. I mean, I have two kids in school, young kids. Like, I'm always sick. I'm constantly looking for wipes and sanitizer, and no one is marketing to them in an effective way. And so that was an immediate opportunity that I saw, which is like, let's just focus on them. And if we can get even 10,000 or 20,000 parents to buy our product, that's
Mhm.
huge. Now, then we'll go to another category and then we'll look at, other demos and other people. But I think like that's the only, unless you have like a ton of capital. And even now it's so hard. So it's really hard no matter what. But I find that's
Well, I bet your preschool teachers and, like, daycare teachers will love you. Because are you gifting this to them? Yeah, I mean, that's a demo I need to do for sure, the care providers. This is wonderful. Well, we talked a little bit about, like, looking forward and trade show plan going forward, and, you kicked off saying that PR and getting those accolades early on was so beneficial. When we look at the rest of 2025 and even into 2026, like, from a marketing perspective, what do you think you're going to be focusing the team's time on?
well, I will say like from dollars and cents perspective, we are meta junkies. I will say like we figured out how to scale sustainably and how to figure out the messaging, we've cracked that messaging, which by the way has not been easy by any means. It basically, not to get into the whole journey, but like multiple agencies, multiple kicks at the can. It ended up that I ended up like fully like getting rid of every agency partner, learning it myself and figuring out how to work meta, work the platform, hiring a consultant to help with creative. Like we took it all in house. Like we had to make some drastic changes to finally get where we are today. So it has not been easy. And anyone who tells you that it is, they had to have a very particular product. I think cosmetics and beauty, it's really hard to hit that mark and to figure out like the problem solution messaging, which is so fundamental for Meta. Anyway, so we spend a lot of money on Meta now, and we have to look at it holistically. We obviously have our like website metrics that we look at. What is our ROI? As long as we're profitable, we're kind of happy. But we also really do look at like the effect that it's having on all of these other channels because we do sell with a lot of e-commerce retailers. We sell on Amazon, and that meta spend has a massive halo effect on every other channel. So as much as some days I'm like, oh, if I just looked in engine, specifically on our website return, there might be days where I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe we spent that much money. But then we get a massive order from a retailer that says that they're, exceeding our forecast every week. And we know that there's a massive halo effect. So I guess like another piece of for brands that are kind of in the early days and hitting their head against the wall, like number one, I think the founder honestly should be the one who takes ownership of the messaging. Do not rely on an agency to crack it early on. We're now working with an agency partner, but we've come a long way to get to that point where I can hand off the keys and be like, now you can just make it better. But to crack it, it really requires, I think, like the people on the full-time team trying to crack it, who know the product best, who know the customer best, and figuring out the ads manager thing, which is not that complicated. I know it can seem complicated, but it's really not. Um, and then also really thinking about the business holistically and understanding that like that spend shouldn't just be fueling your D2C. Like you should be seeing a halo across all of their channels and take comfort in that because obviously there are days and months where I'm like, "Whoa." And I think, but then you look at everything else holistically, it is a very powerful tool. In addition to that, I would say we do consumer shows still, like, trade shows aside, which we will do a couple more of those as I spoke to, but we'll do some consumer shows locally, maybe one or two in the US as well, where we go and we just sell product to the customer. And honestly, it's so good to get in front of people. I think in a pandemic world, we were all just behind our computers and it was so easy to just like click buttons and like not be present in front of people, which can only get you so far. And then you have to get in front of people and talk to people. And that's how we learn. So much of the products that we make are based on those conversations. And the feedback and and also just the feedback loop of like, here's a product I've made. And then you hear someone talk about how much they love it or they're coming back for their third purchase. And it's really gratifying as people on the team, not just the founder. So we'll be putting some money towards that. Um, Other than that, like we're not very diversified in our marketing spend, which I would love to get to that point. We've had challenges testing other things. I mean, I think affiliate is tough. Influencer has worked really well for some brands, not for others. For us, it's been like not amazing. I just think like right now while we're so bootstrapped and like we're very tight, like we just can't afford to be testing as much. But we're gonna get to a place where we'll be ready. It's just we're kind of doing one thing at a time and getting really good at certain
And
things.
then your like organic social media strategy, is that all managed and maintained in-house or do you outsource any of that?
It's in-house. I have two people. I have kind of like a strategist, copywriter, and then a creative lead who does all of the creative, and they're like a real dream team. Yeah, I mean, organic's obviously really important. I think Instagram for us is like our bread and butter. TikTok's been more of a challenge. I think some brands like really capture like the zeitgeist and they have like they just and I hate to say luck because it's not always luck, but like sometimes it can be. And that's a platform I know that can be hugely effective. I mean, I know brands that have like built their whole business off of organic TikTok. Amazing for them. I wish I could capture some of that special sauce, but we've been, a little slower on that platform, but Instagram for sure has been big for us and email and all of that. Just cultivating our community and, sometimes like slow and steady too.
It's underrated, right? Like it kind of feels good to do it that way. I'm with you there.
Mm.
We have found TikTok affiliates and TikTok and ads pointing to TikTok shop do really juice the equation there. So that's what we've been pointing a lot of our clients to do.
Yeah, we sadly in Canada, we don't have TikTok shop. So
Right.
it's a huge missed opportunity for us. Absolutely, when it comes, we'll be jumping all over it because I do think, yeah, and TikTok advertising in general, I think shop specifically is what works from what I'm hearing. So excited to eventually give that a try.
Well, this has been super insightful. I've got one final question for you, and then we'll be off. And it's Amy, if you could go back to your younger self, maybe like the time you were starting with Nix, what advice would you give yourself?
There's so much pressure out there when you're trying to play with the big brands and try to be that next big success story of fast growth. And it's like, bring on VC money and like grow, grow, grow and have a big team and get a big office and, do it. And it's like, I think the biggest thing I've learned for us that's worked really well is just to as I alluded to earlier, but like sometimes slow and steady is the best way to go. It doesn't mean that you're not going to get there eventually. It just sometimes taking a breath and not moving so quickly is actually a huge advantage because growing sustainably, like in the first 2 years when I had more capital, we were spending way more. We were moving at a much faster pace, not growth wise necessarily, more just like in general as a brand. It was like we had, there was just so much pressure. It was this like grind. And then as soon as we kind of like took this breath, really was super thoughtful about every dollar we were spending in more of that bootstrap mode, lean and mean, and also just thinking about sustainable growth and building a big business, a good business rather. Before it was like, don't care about profitability, just grow, 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 scale, 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 tell that story. And now the mindset is way more like grow slow and right and build a good business, not just a fast growing business. And I think that mindset has been a huge shift for me as a founder. And only good things have come out of that mindset. Like as a result, we've grown faster in the last 2 years than we ever grew prior. And we haven't had that mindset of fast growth. It's been like very thoughtful, calculated, slow. So I would say like my advice is just out of the gate, have that mindset, which I certainly didn't have in the beginning. And I've learned a lot to kind of get to this place. But I think it's okay if you're 2 years in and you're not 4Xing every year. And you're not seeing a 3X, 5X in ads manager. Like, just build a good business for what your product is. Make sure you have really good unit economics. Make sure you really, really understand like what you actually need to make in return on your spend in order to sustainably grow. And what scaling looks different to everyone. And I think really focus on you and cut the noise from everybody else.
Yeah, really good advice, and it's so hard to cut the noise sometimes, right? Because you just see all this being out there on social. Well, that came full circle on kind of explaining the legacy brand play that you're going after, so I really appreciate you talking us through that. Iwi, this has been great. If people wanna get in touch, where can they learn more about Palm and maybe find you guys?
Yeah, so we're on Instagram at mypalm. Our website is mypalm.com. And I can be contacted through those channels as well. But that's really how, if you're interested in getting to know the brand, those are the main places to reach us.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for your time today.
Thanks for having me, Nikki.